I'm working on building up an equalizer circuit, and what we're looking at over here is a piece of that circuit that I'm trying to understand how it works a little bit. It controls the 100 hertz frequency via this potentiometer right over here. And that feeds into the output op amp. Now remember what an op amp does. It amplifies the difference between the voltages of the two leads. So if I see the same voltage here on this lead as I do on this lead, the op amp is going to output 0. And if I see a much higher voltage on this lead than I do on this one, the op amp will have very high output as a result. Now what seems to be happening here is this circuit is absorbing some of the signal depending on how I have this potentiometer adjusted. Now if anybody knows what the circuit configuration is called, by all means please let me know. And I'd love to do some research on it and see how some of the calculations are done. But let's take a look at the circuit in action. Here I have the circuit built up on the breadboard. I'm feeding 9 volts into each of the 2 power rails. I have the power rail set up in a dual voltage configuration, so I can get positive 9 volts and negative 9 volts. And anytime I reference something to ground, I'm referencing it to 0 volts. And I'm using a frequency generator on my computer. So I'm using the computer speakers to feed a input signal, a sine wave, into the circuit. I have 100 hertz being fed into this rail right over here. And when I feed it in, notice that there are 2 wires over here that I have connected to the headphone jack on my computer where I have my frequency generator. The red wire goes into this input right over here. The black wire gets referenced to the 0 volts ground. I'm probing the circuit at these 2 points right over here. Each probe is referenced to 0 volts ground. So right now here are the 2 signals on each of the rails that would normally be getting fed into the inputs of an op amp. The yellow going into one input and the blue going into the other. And remember, an op amp amplifies the difference in voltage between 2 rails. So if we're feeding these 2 inputs into the op amp, on the output I wouldn't see any voltage. But when I turn the potentiometer up, now what starts to happen is one rail on the op amp gets a very high voltage, the other rail gets a very low voltage, so the output as a result should be very high in voltage. But when I turn the potentiometer back down, the 2 inputs become equal to each other, and as a result the output should be 0. When I finish the project, I'm going to have it set up on this board where I have a 7-band equalizer that I put together out of some slide potentiometers. I'll have a nice little interface over here that I can put multiple effects on. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll let you know as I get more progress done on the circuit that I'm putting together, and hopefully I can put a video up of the way it sounds, playing a little guitar through it, and yeah, that's it.